Hello everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. So today what I want to do is take you through summer skin prep. And what I mean by that, how we can prep our skin, protect our skin in a way that allows our makeup to last longer in the summer. There's a bit of fluff in the summer heat, because I know summer heat for a lot of people messes with that makeup. And I want to go through a few little things that I see a lot when it comes to makeup and heat and summer that I would advise against. But just before we get into that, say if this is your first time here, hi, my name is Robert. I'm a professional makeup artist here on YouTube and also in real life, and it's my goal to help you become a pro yourself or just someone who's really good at makeup. So if that sounds like something you are interested in, then do please consider subscribing. Okay, now disclaimer, just before we get into this, the skincare kind of routine I'm doing before makeup is literally a just before makeup skincare routine. It isn't something I would say only do this during summer, do whatever you need to do during summer. But if you know you're going out, if you're on holiday, if you're on vacation somewhere hot and you need your foundation to last a long time, your makeup to last a long time, then this is what we need to do. It's like an occasional skincare prep. So the first thing I'm going to start off with is prepping the eyes. We are going to use an SPF eye cream, but I do want to go in first with this Caffeine eye cream for the Inkey list. This is just a really nice lightweight eye cream. I use this when my eyelids are feeling a little bit dry and I really want my eye primer to go on smoothly. So if I'm having a little bit of an issue with my eye primer and my eyelids are maybe a little bit dry in here or dry on the outside, then I just tap on a little bit of this eye cream. I personally do like to use eye cream in my own skincare routines. I know some people aren't bothered or say you don't really need one, but I do like the textures of eye cream, especially how they sit underneath makeup. Like I wouldn't go around my eyes with your regular moisturizer, you know? And don't worry, I'm not going to go into like ingredients and specifics and everything like that because I don't really know. So it's just going to be like, this is how you do it, let's get it done. So I used this recently. This was very kindly gifted to me. This is the Hello Sunday, the one for your eyes SPF. I just realized I left my lights on way too bright and you can't really see anything. I hope it's okay. This is SPF 50, very high protection, which I think is great for under the eyes. Now, the one thing about this is it does leave a brightness to around the eyes. So here's what I thought, because everyone of every skin tone isn't going to be able to use this as an eye cream, but if we were to use it as an eye primer and put eye makeup on top, then we're gonna have a really great time. Now, this is an eye cream, but the reason I put on an eye cream before is because this was a little bit dry the first time I used it. And I was like, let me just whack on like a really lightweight eye cream underneath and see how we get on. But can you see how this, it's like the most subtle brightening. But you can see how it just smooths and evens everything out. It did dry quite well dry, and it really reminded me of the texture of eye primer. So for summer, to minimalize how much product we're using, why not make this a 2-in-1 product? I've just let it dry a little bit, and now I'm adding like a tiny bit more on top of a lid. If you're going to use this by itself, I wouldn't really recommend like piling it on. So while we're waiting for this to dry down a little bit, I'm going to go in with a serum. I love serums for prepping skin anyway. I feel like it's enough hydration for a lot of people. There are those people that do need a tiny bit more. However, on a hot day, in a hot country, in a humid country, where we don't want layers and layers and layers, I'm going to go in with the Laneige Glowy Makeup Serum. This is really nice. It has a really nice kind of shine to it. And I'm literally going to use the smallest bit, get that on the skin and really make sure it becomes part of the skin by tapping and pushing into the skin. And if you do have any areas on your face that are slightly, maybe even dehydrated or a little bit drier, for makeup reasons, just make sure you're really helping that product get into your skin. I'm really pushing, it looks like I'm pushing really hard, but I'm not pushing too hard around my nose here because these are my dry areas where I know makeup tends to sit and usually I need a little bit more help. And the key as well, all the time really with your makeup, is to make sure that the skincare is like set and done on your skin. So I'm going to wait for that to dry it down too. In the meantime, I'm just going to fill in my brows. Just give me something to do while I'm waiting for that all to settle. So for my brows, I'm going to use the Rare Beauty Shape and Fill Duo. Sorry, it's a bit untidy. I use it a lot. It has this little tiny brush on the side here, which is amazing. I'm using powder instead of my pen. Although my pen is usually like completely water resistant, sweat proof, whatever. Don't want to run the risk in extreme heat, so powder is always the best bet for that. And this powder sits really, really nicely on top of brow product. I do have a little bit of glitter left on my face from a look I did earlier. I'm just back to doing some content. I forgot to mention while I'm doing this, because while you're watching this, I will be on vacation. My first one I have taken for, I mean, it's been over 5 years since I've been on a real vacation. So, and I'll be in a hot country. So these are a few bits that I'll be taking with me, you know, just to do whatever with. Okay, so the eyes have creased a tiny bit, so I'm just going to tap over. This isn't an eye primer, so I do expect some creasing, but it's just like a one-time deal. Like, I wouldn't recommend this as your eye primer all the time. Okay, now my skin, everything feels sunken in. Listen, sunken in. My face isn't sunken in, my skin feels like the skincare has absorbed. Okay, next I'm going in with the Shiseido Urban Environment Age Defense Sun Dual Care Oil Free SPF 30. Now, I used this with a BB cream and I stayed matte for hours and hours and hours. So this is one of the best sun creams I have used under makeup. I think it's absolutely incredible. I'm applying it like this because I don't really want to move it around. I just want to tap it into place where I apply it to make sure I'm getting like a good coverage right there. This will be great. Something like oil free in terms of sun cream would be incredible to use in everyday life anyway under your foundation. Sun cream is I know that people who wear makeup often leave out sun cream because they think they're wearing makeup. Why does it matter? My makeup has SPF in it. We all know it's not enough to actually count as the coverage, sorry, as the protection number on the foundation. You need to use a lot of foundation. And I know people tend not to use it because they feel like it's another extra layer, another something else that can interfere with their makeup. But if you find the right kind, one that's really sheer, one that's really fine, it won't feel like it's interfering with your makeup in any way. Okay, so I'm gonna do a quick eye look. I won't film it just because it's like, you know, not part of the video, but I will be right back. Okay, so just before we finish up with the eyes, and the SPF feels like it's now just my skin, I'm gonna go in with some liquid highlighter. Now, this is the only kind of like liquidy makeup product we're gonna use, apart from the foundation. Yes, I'll explain why later. I'm gonna take a tiny bit. I'm not gonna use the actual applicator, but I'm gonna use kind of like this part off my finger because I want more of a natural kind of look. So I'm getting a little bit on my finger and I'm gonna just press into the areas where I would usually want a highlight and for my skin to have a glow. The reason I'm using this bit is because I can be a little bit quicker with firmness. When you're quick with your fingertip, it's kind of like a light pat. When you're quick with this bit, it's more of a firm, I guess, smack. And I want it to be part of my skin, but I also want to push it into the skin, make it part of the skin. So we get that really nice glow. This is a beautiful highlighter. It's one of my absolute favorites. It's called the Elevated Glow Highlighter for anyone who's interested. I have all the products listed below as well if you want to check them out. I do highlight the forehead, but I always miss the middle because it looks like sweat and shine, and the chin. And when we're in somewhere hot and we already are sweating and shiny, we don't really want to accentuate that too much. But I always quite like a nice glow to the face. I don't mind a sweaty cheek, you know? Concealer, we're going to use the smallest amount. And I'm going to use quite a large fluffy brush because I really want to buff it into the skin. I don't want so much coverage, we just want buffed in looking skin. You can see, although it wasn't too much product, it's still just enough. Okay, I'm going to go in with my Eldrige foundation because this is one of the only foundations that really lasts on my skin. I don't know what it is, but as an oily person, it sits really great. And I'm going to use a brush that has this angle to it. This is the Sigma Multitasker F47. And I'm going to use this because I'm going to press that foundation into our skin. One of the things you want to do with your foundation on skin when you know it's going to be sweaty or hot or humid is really, really make sure that that foundation is pushed into the skin and really becomes part of the skin. When we blend or beauty blend or just kind of buff like this and don't spend that much time, it kind of just sits on top. Whereas what I'm doing now is applying a tiny bit at a time and really making sure I'm using that brush to push that into the skin. And don't worry, you're not going to get like acne or spots or whatever. Just clean your face, you'll be fine. Now the trick with this is, when do you know you're done, right? I'm going to know I'm done with this when I can take my hand and touch my face and I feel like nothing has changed and my foundation is like now like a good part of my skin, you know? Cool. Okay, let me finish up the eyes again, and I'll be right back again. Okay, so one thing I notice a lot when we're looking at like summer looks or hot weather looks, people always kind of go to cream, which I understand, because cream it has this really nice finish to it, obviously like a creamy finish, so it looks very summery, very fresh. Not so practical in like hot weathers. So I am going to stick with powder for a bronzer, and I'm actually going to use a Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt bronzer. This is light medium. This is a perfect bronzer shade without being too, it's not orange, it just makes a really incredible bronzer. What I am going to do with this bronzer is bear in mind where I kind of sweat a lot. I sweat a lot on my forehead and I sweat a lot on my cheeks here. When I don't want my sweat to kind of get involved with my bronzer, so I'm not going to bring it too far in, and I'm not going to use it around the hairline, because if I pat it away with a tissue or whatever, my makeup's going to look patchy from sweat and it might subtly like change the shade of a bronzer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a bigger brush, but like a flatter brush. This is the Sigma Powder Sculpt F44. I don't know why I'm saying brush numbers, so I'm going to keep that to the sides here and just make sure I'm sculpting out this area and avoiding those areas where I sweat quite a bit. So if I do need to like just tap my face while I'm hot, then that will get rid of the bronzer. By the way, I'm not going to wear this much makeup when I'm away. I'm just theoretically, if you like to wear like a full face while you're away. So for my forehead, because I know obviously people like to use a bit of bronzer on their forehead, I sweat across my hairline here, not so much here. My hair can kind of like catch it, so I'm just going to use a tiny bit, and I'm going to kind of cut it off here just before we get into the hairline, so right here. So I personally wouldn't use loose powder when I know I'm going to sweat or I'm going to get too hot, because the texture of it just looks really terrible. If you did want to use the tiniest amount, I'm going to take a loose powder and I'm going to take an eyeshadow blending brush, and I'm going to use, when I say the smallest amount, literally the tiniest amount. And the idea with this isn't to set our foundation, it's just to mattify those areas. Setting your foundation when you're going to sweat and be oily, like we want to do the prep, we want to do the work before. That's why we use all those products before. Okay, let me put on some lashes and be done with this look. Okay, so that is my skin prepped for any sweaty summer situation. It doesn't look much different to what I would do normally. It does feel a lot lighter to how I usually do my foundation. You can see that SPF made an amazing eye primer, so that's a good one. And yeah, let me know if you have any like skin prep summer secrets. I would love to know them below. Please consider subscribing, give this video a thumbs up, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and I will see you very soon. Bye.